You know what this is. Whoops. Let's make sure we rub it all in.
Practice that good hygiene.
Yeah. Don't forget the thumbs. A lot of people forget the thumbs. I know I didn't know that I was supposed to get the thumbs until reading all about all of this stuff. So, we are on chapter 5. And we left off on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Let's read that cliffhanger, shall we? Everyone had begun to look very serious. Queen Susan jumped up and ran to her brother. "Oh, Edmund!" she cried. "What is it? There is something dreadful in your face!" And then, if you remember, I said that's the end of chapter 4. I know! What's in his face? Alright, chapter 5. As usual with these books, they spoil what happens. The title is called Prince Corin. Or does it spoil it? Does he become a prince? What's going to happen? You don't know. "My dear sister, and very good lady," said King Edmund, "you must now show your courage, for I tell you plainly we are in no small danger." "What is it, Edmund?" asked the queen. "It is this," said Edmund. "I do not think that we shall find it easy to leave Tashbaan. While the prince had hope you would take him, we were honored guests. We were honored guests. But by the lion's mane, I think as soon as he has your flat denial, we shall be no better than prisoners." One of the dwarves gave a low whistle. "I warned you, your majesties, I warned you," said Shallowpad the raven. "Easily in, but not easily out, as the lobster said in the lobster pot." "I have been with the prince this morning," continued Edmund. "He is little used, more's the pity, to having his will crossed, and he is very chafed at your long delays and doubtful answers. This morning he pressed very hard to know your mind. I put it aside, meaning at the same time to diminish his hopes with some common jest about women's fancies, and hinted that his suit was likely to be cold. He grew angry and dangerous. There was a sort of threatening, though still veiled with a show of courtesy, in every word he spoke. "Yes," said Tumnus, "and when I supped with the Grand Vizier last night, it was the same. He asked me how I liked Tashbaan, and for I couldn't tell him I hated every stone of it, and wouldn't lie, told him that now, when high summer was coming on, my heart turned to the cool woods and dewy slopes of Narnia. He gave a smile that meant no good, and said, 'There's nothing to hinder you from dancing there again, little Goatfoot, always provided you leave us in exchange a bride for our prince.'" "Do you mean that he would make me his wife by force?" exclaimed Susan. "That's my fear, Susan," said Edmund. "Wife or slave, which is worse." "But how can he? Does the Tisroc think our brother the High King would suffer such an outrage?" "Sir," said Peredan to the king, "they would not be so mad. Do they think there are no swords and spears in Narnia?" "Alas," said Edmund, "my guess is that the Tisroc has very small fear of Narnia. We are a little land, and little lands on the borders of a great empire were always hateful to the lords of great empires. He longs to blot them out, gobble them up. When first he suffered the prince to come to Cair Paravel as your lover, sister, it may be that he was only seeking an occasion against us. Most likely he hopes to make one mouthful of Narnia and Archenland both." "Let them try," said the second dwarf. "At sea we are as big as he is, and if he assaults us by land, he has the desert to cross." "True, friend," said Edmund, "but is the desert a sure defence? What does Shallowpad say?" "I know the desert well," said the raven, "for I have flown above it far and wide in my younger days. You may be sure that..." Man, That's what's really hard with these old books. You may be sure that Shasta pricked up his ears at this point.
And this is certain, that if the Tisroc goes by the great oasis, he can never lead a great army across it to Archenland. For though they could reach the oasis by the end of the first day's march, yet the springs there would be too little for the thirst of all soldiers and their beasts. But there is another way.
Shasta listened more attentively still.
He would find that way,
said the raven. This is hard. Shasta listened more attentively still.
He that would find that way, said the raven, must start from the tombs of the ancient kings and ride northwest so that the double peak of Mount Fire is always straight ahead of him. And so, in a day's riding or little more, he shall come to the head of a stony valley, which is so narrow that a man might be within a furlong of it 1,000 times and never know it was there. And, looking down this valley, he will see neither grass nor water nor anything else good. But if he rides on down it, he will come to a river and can ride by the water all the way into Archenland.
And do the Colomans know of this western way? asked the queen. Friends, said Edmund. What is the use of all this discourse? We are not asking whether Narni or Coloman would win if war arose between them. We are asking how to save the honour of the queen and our own lives out of this devilish city. For though